to manage 1 million square feet of cannabis, to keep that room at a pristine growing environment without it being like, you know, purposely built for that, to us was crazy.
You are now watching the Kris LaBelle Show.
Now, how has the pandemic affected the cannabis industry? Your expertise, you are a consultant. You are actually a renowned consultant in the cannabis industry. You are the co-founder of one of the largest cannabis brands. Did you cue that in there? Like a horsepower just ripped by? You're one of the but you are the co-founder of one of the, you know, what would you say, where's Topleaf rank right now in regards to like the amount of distribution that they're providing?
You know, to be quite honest, I haven't looked at the exact numbers in any recent weeks.
But in your time,
my time, yeah, you know, like we're probably in about 35 to 40% of dispensaries across Canada. And you know, looked at as a premier brand. It is a
premier brand.
Yeah.
So here you are as the co-founder of Topleaf.
Mm-hmm.
You are the editor-chief of a magazine, a cannabis magazine.
Yeah.
My question to you, you've obviously, you know, I know that you're heavily involved in the marketing and the advertising, the branding of Topleaf, which I think, hands down, one of the sexiest brands I've ever seen. I don't care, you could have put anything in those containers with those logos, with those color schemes. Like, I would have bought it. It just looks so sleek.
Yeah.
And I will say, as a cannabis consumer, if I do smoke dispensary, if I do, there's only 2 brands that I will smoke, and Topleaf is the brand that I choose, and the only other brand that I will smoke is Hexo, you know.
Okay,
and these are the brands that I choose to smoke, but I'm a craft guy,
hear that.
I'm a craft guy, and I stick with the craft industry. But I have to say, you know, you are a pioneer in the cannabis industry, especially here, you know, in Alberta. You know, you were obviously involved in a time where it was a bit taboo, it was a bit black market, gray market area,
yeah.
And you had educated yourself in the industry. Tell us how that kind of came about from here you are as a young DJ in Calgary, and you got into this position.
It's one of those things. First and foremost, you know, I know Topleaf is good weed because we're here calling it Rollers Rights, or calling it High Rollers, but it's actually called Rollers Rights.
Rollers Rights.
Yeah, Rollers Rights, and online magazine. But kicking it back to the beginning, I guess, you know, of how this all started, you know, probably goes back to high school, you know, and the interactions and.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Aberhart. Yeah, here in Calgary. Yeah, so.
Are you Calgary born?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Calgary.
What neighborhood? What area are you in?
Initially elementary as in Martindale, so northeast.
Yeah.
And then junior high school, we moved up to the northwest, and that's where the story kind of, you know, begins really. And oddly enough, it all starts with trying my first cigarette and being probably absolutely disgusted. And in that same moment, somebody going, "Well, I'll give you 25 cents for that." And I said, "Oh shit! Well, I got 25 of them. It's pizza money for the week, right?" So, you know, that's probably initially like the day, you know, I started to look at cannabis. At that age, you know, you're not understanding it, you know, you're not taking the time to really look into it, to understand it. You're using it as more of a getaway, of kind of like a fun, of kind of like a party thing that, you know, you want to do with your friends, and you know, and you learn a lot real quick, you know,
with cannabis?
And with cannabis, and just putting yourself in the culture of cannabis and in the life of cannabis, right? And you meet a lot of very, very interesting people and a lot of great people, and
more
a lot
great
of,
or more interesting.
You know, it's literally about 50-50.
No kidding.
You know? And you know, and I would say. Then you got a small percentage of people that you meet that you're just like, I probably don't ever want to meet you again.
Yeah.
Right? You know?
Was that in the early stages or still?
Always. Because, you know, a part of that is, you know, like literally like meeting people you don't know, right? It's what some would call high risk lifestyle. You know what I mean?
So you lived a high risk lifestyle?
Yeah, a high risk lifestyle, you know, for years, and as you start to grow, and you know, you start hanging out with different groups and going down different pathways, and you know, kind of every now and then things would happen, and it kind of like makes you pull back and just go like what am I doing? You know, like, am I really on the right path? So you question that, and those questions lead to kind of questioning who you are, right? And those questions lead to, okay, well, if that's who I am, what am I going to do with the time that I'm given to be here? And the answer in my head was help. Just help people, you know? So
You are helpful.
My mission became to, you know, help people with access to cannabis, right? And
What did that look like?
it was a shift. It was a complete mental shift. It went from thinking about it as going after money and going after clout and going after recognition to literally going, I'm going to wake up every day and I'm going to help somebody get through their day. And it's a complete mental mind shift. And a friend of mine came to me and I just said, man, I'm trying to save money. And I could just never get to this point. Every time I try to get close to this point, it just all goes away. And he leaned over and he said, you know what? Stop counting your money and count your people. And I said, wow, I've been concentrating on the wrong thing the whole time. And that literally changed my life. And my efforts changed from how much money do I make this week to how many people have I interacted with this week, right? The money became the byproduct of what I love to do, right? And obviously it's not to say, you know, you're not counting or being on top of your finances. It's that is not the focus, right? When you start to focus on the end goal, you miss out on the process. And if you don't love the process, you probably won't love the end goal at the end of that light. So,
are you happy? Is this your end goal now, or are you still fulfilling the end goal?
Always fulfilling.
Always.
You know, like if there's one thing I learned, you know, if you were to come up to me 10 years ago and say, hey, Jay, you're going to have dreads and live on an island, I would have laughed in your face, right? But it happened.
Yeah.
Right? And
was that the best decision you made in your life?
Yeah. I would say so, you know, because it's very hard to walk away from a place which you know everyone and everything, right? And that's what Calgary was for me, right?
So Calgary was comfortable.
Calgary was comfortable, you know. I knew who everybody was. I had great interactions. I knew if I fell that there was people to pick me up. But at the time of really taking our cannabis company to the next level, I also knew that, hey, if we do this in Alberta, we're probably going to go to jail. We need to go somewhere where this is looked at. They can look at us as entrepreneurs. And that was BC at that time.
Wow.
So
when would that time be?
That would have been 2017, 2018.
Not too long ago.
Yeah. And
just prior to legalization.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like we started, you start to get a feeling. You start to see the writing on the wall. And it was actually my final drive with my shit out to Victoria when on the news at, I think it was like, must have been 3, 4 a.m., you know, weed's going to be legalized. And that morning, I got a call from my mother, and she said, you know what? I kicked you out. I gave you a lot of shit for this, but you followed your heart. And this seems like something now is shifting. And maybe now people are going to be more open to the positive aspect of cannabis and how it can help, and how it can change people, and how it can add positivity into a life instead of what we're used to, you know, the negative aspects in which you hear about it, right?
What negative aspects are mentioned? Like what's associated with the negative aspects of cannabis?
Oh, you know, like, you know, the being lazy, the driving while stoned, you know, all the different things that is, you're going to be stupid, you're going to fry your brain, you know, cannabis is for losers and all this type of stuff.
Yeah.
And you quickly realize, no, you know, and I knew that in my heart, you know, with the people you meet along the way, I'm like, well, that person ain't lazy, you know, and this person's, you know, this high up in this field, or even in politics, even in this or that, you know, like we've met with them all, right? And
I've been smoking weed every day since I was 12 years old, pretty much give or take. Maybe 12 to 15, I was not every day, but like 15, 16, when it became more accessible, I had a job, I had access to it.
Yeah.
I've been smoking weed for almost 30 years and using psilocybin, AKA mushrooms, for a long time as well, pretty much equal length. And I remember my mom, my Italian mother, being so adamant about, you know, the use of cannabis and
Yeah.
weed and marijuana, as they called it, and you're gonna fry your brain. It's gonna make you stupid. It's gonna gateway drug. It's gonna lead to worse drugs. And I'm like, the only drug that I ever did more of was food. Like that was it. Like I just get the munchies, and I became a compulsive eater. Beside that, I mean, the most people that I see using cannabis now, I get a kick out of it because have you ever tried a gummy? Have you ever done the edibles?
Yeah.
I'm just into the CBD right now, and I'm just like, that's so cute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're puppies. They're in the infancy stage of legality.
It's a new thing, yeah. It's a new thing.
And you've watched that. You've helped nurture. I would say you probably helped nurture the legality because you did things correctly. You did things the appropriate process.
Yeah.
And now, you co-founded one of the most popular brands. Is it just Canada or is it in the US now?
Just Canada.
Just Canada. So what happens when are any Canadian brands in the US?
Not that I know of off the top of my head. Maybe some of the bigger, the super large, like the mega companies might have offshoots in the States.
What's a mega company?
A mega company is like, Canopy Growth, Afria, Sundial, which is who
bought you guys.
Which is who got us. Yeah.
What was that like? What was it like when a company as big as Sundial was like, we like your stuff?
Yeah, it's one of those movie moments, know. But at the same time, we were kind of the guys in the industry that again saw the writing on the wall. We had meetings with the government prior to legalization, right? They were bringing us in and they were talking to us and trying to get an understanding of what's going on or how it could be set up. But every time we left those meetings, we knew that, like, man, they're not building this for people like us. They're not building this for the culture, So we caught on to that right away.
Do you remember the conversations we had prior to legalization?
Oh, yeah.
Because you were telling me about these dispensaries that will be opening in Calgary.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, you got to give me a job. Like, I remember asking you for a job at this dispensary. And I envisioned this dispensary as a candy store. I just had this vision of this dope lounge and these giant containers full of beautiful bud, and everyone's smoking, and we're picking what we like, and we're almost like sommeliers of cannabis, and I had this beautiful vision on patios, and I was like, dude, I want to do so well for you. I can market, I can advertise, and you're like, yeah, we'll see how it goes, because I feel like you already kind of knew it was going to be controlled and it was going to be treated like alcohol.
Yeah.
And did you guys already have that conception? Like the government's going that route?
We kind of saw the writing on the wall, and, for a second there, we became, kind of the guys in the industry that are like, with our heads kind of like, guys, we got to do something. We got to come together. But naturally, humans that have things going on that they've created, naturally, they don't always want to bind to other things or to make co-ops or to make so it's hard, right? And we were against a very tight timeline. We knew that this was happening.
Was it luck that got you in there, or was it actual hard work, or was it a combination of both?
It's a combination of both, right? Like when you look at like what is success? When preparation meets opportunity, right? That forms success. So if you're prepared and the opportunity comes, you could experience the success in that sense, right? So for us, we knew that, hey, we want to do this really right, as right as we can. We want to test products. We want to, just do everything that we can to make sure that, it doesn't look shady. It doesn't look like, although it was, it just,
was it shady?
It didn't appear that way. Well, they call it the legacy, the underground market. But at that time, there's dispensaries on every corner. There was a time in Vancouver where there was more dispensaries than Starbucks.
Who would you say was the true pinnacle, like the true icon of cannabis in Canada? Who would you say was the one that established these dispensaries and created the alignment, the community, the culture? Who got that going? Was it a group effort, or was it anyone individually?
There's definitely individuals and there's definitely groups, that all had their hand in it. We got Mark there on the West Coast there. Mark Emery,
he took a hard hit though, eh?
Yeah, and without getting into all that or who he became or maybe who he always was, he did a lot for the industry, and I don't think that can be ever really taken away.
So he's a voyageur.
Yeah, you know, and him and Jody Emery, you know,
Jody,
like
yeah,
they
that's right.
pushed, like, you know, they pushed, and there's times where they really didn't have to, and they chose to, right?
Was it passion?
It was a passion, you know, they did a lot, like the whole thing with him, you know, literally being pulled out of a Canadian country to a US country to serve time, like these things are crazy.
Is he still serving time?
No, he's out now, and I don't know. He actually gave me my first cannabis award. You know,
Wow.
so that was pretty cool. We won
Was that a
first
Cannabis
place.
Cup, or?
That wasn't a High Times Cannabis Cup, but that was a Cannabis Cup of another locally run on the island called Grassroots, and they did a really fun Cannabis Cup. Nice. And again, another group of guys that, you know, for the island, like, you know, really put in work, really made things happen. And now, you know, even them, they formed into a group. I believe it's called BC Supply Co. or Bud BC Supply Co. Something of that nature. And you know, they're still in it, which is really cool to see. At the time of legalization, we were one of the only groups that really made it into legalization. There was kind of Topleaf, there was Broken Coast, I think, that was kind of in there before us, yeah. And then kind of after, you know, the bigger companies started going after, like realizing, hey, we kind of need these guys.
Was that a Walmart move? Would you say, with that, you know what I mean?
know
Like
what?
conglomeration, like to take everybody under one wing and.
You know what? It's the realization. So you asked kind of like what that was like, you know, them coming to the door.
Yeah.
And we had multiple groups come to us and say, you know, like, we want to bring you guys on board. We like what you're doing, this or that, you know. But a lot of these guys would come in and say, well, hey man, we got 1 million square feet of growing space. We want you guys to do it. And we're like, oh, how many rooms is that? Just one. I don't want to be a part of that. You're going to try to grow at 1 million square feet. You're probably going to try to run the least amount of people possible. If you get one bug in 1 square foot, you're going to have bugs in all 1 million square feet. Like, to manage 1 million square feet of cannabis, to keep that room at a pristine growing environment without it being, like, you know, purposely built for that, to us was crazy. You know, so we had these different groups, and then Sundalas, you know, kind of came to us. And their approach was a little different, and it was kind of, you know, how do we replicate what you guys have been doing for so long? And together we formed a model kind of called Craft at Scale, which they still use today, and they've been very successful with that. And what that was, yeah, you can have, you know, 500,000, 1 million square feet, but you have to break it down into individual growing units, every room running, you know, completely on its own. Self-sustained, right? So they did a really good job with that.
You said bugs. I just want to interrupt. Bugs. What a lot of people probably don't know about bugs in cannabis, and obviously, like, you know, there's pesticides that are used here and there, and I mean, are bugs an issue with cannabis? Or?
Always, yeah.
Really? What
like,
kind of
you
bugs?
know, when you're doing any sort of farming, you know, you're dealing with bugs. You know, that's spider mites, thrips. Those are probably like your most common ones within like a grow space.
What do they do?
Not much, you know. They kind of, like, spider mites are annoying because they grow at such a rate, and they actually leave like a webbing, right? So that webbing is, you know, it's no good. It'll start to hold water, start to hold mold, everything like that. They get into the plants, right? Nobody wants to smoke weed when they're finding bugs in it and all sorts of stuff. So it just kind of degrades the quality of the cannabis and creates like issues. The plants will become very unhealthy. The plants can die. Which
costs money.
Which costs huge money. So you're always on top of bugs, and you're always on top of the things that can go wrong. And a lot of people think, you know, and a lot of the corporations that got into cannabis, I think, thought growing cannabis was a very easy task.
So you mean,
so far as
would you say like the capitalists?
Yeah.
Capitalists,
you know,
venturists.
The venturists, you know, it's just...
They wanted to make money immediately.
Exactly, right?
They didn't care about the culture, the craft nature of it.
Not much.
The holistic
a lot of the
nature of it. It was
companies
just
didn't,
money.
and that was a really interesting thing. When it all kind of happened, right? The expos were really big. You know, they went from being small, like everybody selling weed and just kind of chilling, to like very tight but very big. You know, now the big flying things and balloons are in the air, and like the money has shown up, right? But you could walk through these expos and just go, wow, like, okay, you got a marketing company to do your stuff. You got a marketing company, because it was unauthentic. It was their version of what they believed the cannabis culture wanted. and a lot of them was probably the furthest thing from, right? So it was interesting to take it all in and just go, wow, like this is their version of what's going on, you know? But like with anything, you know, I think the government's first priority is public safety, right? So
which is fair.
Which is fair.
Very
and
fair.
to the eyes of the government, they were opening Pandora's box. You know, they had no clue. They thought, you know, they were going to open that box and all hell was going to break loose, right? So through time, we've seen it, you know, certain little things. It's been very, very slow. Not anywhere where we need to be yet, but slowly they're starting to understand little bits by bits. So I believe, you know, in the next 5 to 7 years, we're going to start to see the life kind of really get breathed into the industry. What is
it you love about cannabis? Like if you can express that and say, man, I love cannabis. This is what I love about it. What is it? What draws you to it? What has drawn it to you? And what motivated you to get here?
You know, I'd have to say it's probably two things. It's the medicinal benefits, and I would say the culture, but inside the culture, the conversations in which you have with a group of people while smoking a joint. And it's the whole thing. It's finding that perfect nug. And I go through my bag, I'm like, ooh, these people, this nug, all right, this is what I want to do. Then I got to break it up. Through breaking it up, I get to smell the essence, you know, the profile in which it releases. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. You can start to taste it on your mouth, right?
Yeah. That's why I love craft cannabis.
Right?
It's the greatest stuff.
And then you get to roll it, right?
Yeah.
That's a choice. You know, am I rolling this long to be nice and relaxing? Am I rolling it short and heavy so we just get blasted? You know, it's all in the roll of the joint, right?
I see you brought a little something.
There's different. Oh yeah, we can get into that for sure.
Can we?
And yeah, let me start on that.
Yeah.
And
what do we have here?
There's different things. This is a pink kush.
Pink kush.
So this is a very, very popular and sought after BC strain, kind of a coastal strain. I don't know if anybody actually knows like the true lineage of it, but It does come from an OG kush line. It is an indica dominant like hybrid, but very deep in pine, very, very flavorful, very sticky, which I like, you know.
How do they get that? How do you grow cannabis to be like, man, it's like cotton candy. It's spongy, it's thick, the smells, I can smell the oils, I can smell the hairs. Like, how do you get it to that point? Like, I remember back in the day, I'll be honest, I didn't know the difference between oregano and cannabis. I remember the first time I ever bought weed. I was back in Thunder Bay, must have been grade 8, and I remember going over to another end of town, and these two brothers were known to have a little bit of this and that, and I remember going there and just trying to cop some with nothing. Like, hey man, how about you give me a little some of that weed? And they're like, what do you mean? And I remember they kind of thumped me a little bit for being so ignorant. And I remember being like, they're like, you got to pay for it. You got to come back with something. So I remember running home and like, this is the day. And I go home, and at the time I had Super Mario Brothers 3 and for Nintendo. And I remember grabbing Super Mario Brothers 3. I had a starters pullover jacket with the Raiders on the front of it.
Yeah.
Or no, that was a Michigan Wolverines one, the pullover, that 90s pullover. And I had that, and I ran back to the neighborhood, and I remember just like, here you go, like, here's my token, like, give me the weed. And they're like, okay, bro. And they give me this little zippy, and I go home, and I don't know how to roll a joint. I don't know anything about cannabis. All I know is I just freaking made it happen. And I remember smoking it, and I remember no idea if it's working, if it's not working. My sister comes home, and she could smell something burning. She said, what are you doing? What are you doing in here? And I'm like, no, nothing. And she's like, what are you doing? Smoking weed in here? I'm like, no, Lisa. She goes, let me see it. So I give it to her, and she rips it open and looks at it. She's like, Christopher. I'm like, what? She goes, this is oregano. And I remember just like, I didn't even know what oregano was. I didn't cook then. And I got my first baggie was oregano. My second baggie was catnip. My third baggie was, someone said, you don't need anything. You just got to smoke the inside of a banana. Wow, and I remember just like smoking dried banana. And I'm like, I just want it. And my sister, finally, in the summer of grade 8, or grade 7 potentially, grade 7, my sister takes me to her basement apartment at the time, and she pulls out what is cannabis. And they roll it up, and I smoke a little bit, and they want to get me lit, so they give me a little more. And I remember Do the Bartman, that Bart Simpson song, Do the Bartman. And Milhouse has Bart on his shoulders, and he's peeking through the
that's
curtains.
way back.
And
Yeah.
Milhouse goes, "Bart, I'm hurting, man." And I'll never forget the explosive laughter that emanated from me. Just whoa! And I laughed hysterically. The vibration, the glow, the warmth. I've never been so happy in my life. It was one of the greatest moments of my life.
Nice.
And I'll never forget it. And I remember just sitting there after, and it had that wah, 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 that body buzz.
Yeah,
and then it was all said and done. I'll be honest, I wanted more.
Yeah.
But the one thing about it, it never harmed me.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't cause me any ill effect. It didn't cause any change in my behaviors. My mother said it did, but ultimately, I still played sport. I still got a job. I had my license. I drove. I fished. I hunt. I didn't change my lifestyle.
Yeah.
But it changed me.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I got a chance to participate in cannabis at that age.
Yeah.
And to sit here with you today, about to smoke a joint with you, and a co-founder of a major brand that is over 40% of dispensaries across this country. And I've known you for 15 years or more. And here we are today on a podcast. I'm just starting. It's an honor to have you on, brother.
Well, happy to be here for sure.
Let's
You know
get
what's-
this
you know
going.
what's- You know what's funny about that? I have an oregano story too.
You have an oregano story?
Yeah.
I'm not alone.
And no, I think many out there have an oregano story.
If you guys got an oregano story, hit me up in my IG stories.
And-
I want to hear it.
And you know what it was my buddy came over, and I was about that age too, about 12 or 13 or something. And he's like, "Hey, like, you know, my parents are gone. Like, we should go kick it at my house and try to start this dirt bike and whatever." So I was like, "All right, cool." So, you know, we go over there, and he's like, "Man, like, you know, everybody's been smoking like pot lately and this or that. Like, I see my dad smoking pot." And I was like, "Well, like, what is it?" And he's like, "Well, I don't actually know, but like, do you want to smoke some?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I think they use these rollies, right?" And I knew my dad had some rollies, so we went back to my house, grabbed these rollies, and come back, and he's like, "Hey, like, I think it's this, you know?" And I'm like, "Man, that's oregano." And he's like, "Yeah, but they keep calling it like herb, right? So it's like a herb's a herb, right?" So I'm like, "Fuck yeah, a herb's a herb." Yeah. So we roll up this fucking oregano, and we're out there, and it's like fucking lighting up, flames high. We're coughing. Oh shit, this is horrible. How do they do this, right? And whatever, that's the experience. So, you know, we go to work on the dirt bike, and his mom comes in an hour later. "Hey, you know, like, what have you guys been up to?" "Oh, nothing, just working on the dirt bike." And she kind of stops and goes, "Have you guys been smoking?" We're like, "No." Like, why? Like, what would we be smoking? "Why do you say that?" She's like, "Both your eyelashes and eyebrows are completely burnt off." And I said, "Oh shit, busted."
Wow.
So we got busted smoking oregano.
Wow. So what happened, your first experience when you actually got yourself some good bud and you got to blaze the first time?
I remember not feeling too much. And, you know, smoking out of a fucking pop can.
Your first time was a little mini
Yeah.
bomb? Handmade bomb?
Pop can in my buddy's backyard. And I remember saying, like, this is it. Like, this is the feeling. Like, I don't really feel nothing. And I remember opening his fridge. And I noticed the brightness right away. I was like, "Damn, bro, you got like dope lights in your fridge, right? Like, this shit is bright, man." But now this fridge is like trying to show me things to eat. Like, this light, like this, you know, this mayonnaise is looking good. This tuna over here is looking good. And I'm like putting together this sandwich, and I start pulling shit out. And my buddy's looking at me like, "Dude, like what are you doing?"
Yeah.
You know, like what is going on? You know? And I'm like, "Bro, like, I just want to make a sandwich." And he's like, "You're high."
Yeah, it's hilarious.
And I was like, "All right, this is what it feels like, hey?" And yeah, it was a good time. The second time I smoked weed, I thought maybe I could be a dolphin.
Dolphin.
I swear to God, yeah. I was on my buddy's bed, and I was like, "Dude, maybe I'm a dolphin." And I was like, "Oh, I wonder how dolphins laugh." And I kind of tried to do it, and I threw up.
Oh.
And I was like, "All right, I'm not a fucking dolphin," you know? But it was a cool experience.
Trying to be a dolphin.
Oh, yeah, you know, like, that's what life's about, right?
What do they
You
have?
got to kick the can at everything.
Porpoises? What are dolphins? You live on the ocean. You have dolphins by you, don't you?
Got dolphins and seals and all sorts of shit. I remember that seal that we saw there at
Yeah, at the harbor.
the harbor.
Yeah, you
That
did a
was
little
cool.
move. You called them up.
You got to call the seals.
Man, this guy called up. Was it a sea lion or is it a seal?
It was a seal.
It's freaking big. and I just saw this object, this giant object floating up to the top of this harbor by these boats, and it just looks at me like, you summoned me? And I'm like, what do I do? And you're like, man, check it out. And he like did a little thing, and he hung out, he had the mustache, everything, and he looked at us for a little bit and looked at Jay, and all right, you guys are gonna give me any food? No worry. And he's like, check you later. And he went back and he took off.
He's gone. Yeah, there's all sorts of shit out there. It's really cool, you know, moving from Calgary to a place like the island.
Nice.
It's really cool. Yeah, you know, it's very, very sought after, the pink kush, and you know, as we're looking at it, you know, it's burning really nice.
Super
it's giving
smooth.
a really nice white ash, which you want. You know, and the feeling and the taste and the everything is, to me, one of my favorite strains for sure.
I'm liking it. I'll tell you this, since we're here smoking, a lot of you don't know the mannerisms, the protocol to sharing a joint with somebody, right? There's like what would you say? Like there's a practice, like there's a
there's a ritual.
What's the ritual? Why don't you share I want to know the ritual from from an expert.
You know, I think the ritual is a little bit different for everyone. As I kind of said before, you know, I really like the rolling process, right? Yeah. To me, it's very like grounding. It's very like in the moment. I get to see what I'm about to consume, right? Which I also like doing with my food. Yeah. You know, before a lot of people think I pray before I eat, but I'm actually just taking the time to actually just look at what I'm choosing to put in my body before I put it in. Is this the right choice? You know? So cannabis is kind of the same, where, you know, I get to look at it, I get to smell it, I get to roll it, I get to choose the length, I get to, you know, all these things. I'd say the biggest thing is, you know, kind of passing to your left, you know, kind of doing that. Another common one is probably, you know, puff, puff, pass. Seems to be, a super common one. And courteous, you know. And
a little slobbery when someone gives you one that's all slobbered on.
That always sucks.
How do you tell somebody that?
You just got to be straight, though. You just
got to say, hey, come on.
Yeah,
do you have any techniques? Like I have one because I have big hands. Mm-hmm. So when I take like a lower end of the joint, I can literally just take it off my fingers without even putting it in my mouth. Yeah. And I've been doing that for years. My buddy's like, you do realize that as you inhale, you're inhaling all the saliva and bacteria that's on it regardless, whether it's from your fingers or not. And we had a great debate about that. But ultimately, like, the puff, puff, pass to the left, don't get the thing wet.
Oh, and whoever rolled it sparks it.
Whoever rolls it sparks it, unless they offer that to someone else.
Yeah.
What's a don't? Like, oh man, like what's an instant don't? Like, you know, in comedy, comedians first time will come and they'll take the mic stand and the mic out and leave the stand in the center of the stage, and they'll be standing behind it or walking by it. That's like a thing you don't do. What's a don't do with cannabis?
There's a lot, but you know, one that probably jumps up in my head is like, you know, don't smoke too much of a joint you didn't pitch on. You know what I mean? And it's like, I've been in many circles where people will just kind of like join in, and they're like, you know, like the weed vulture in there. They're like, oh man, and then, you know, they'll grab the joint and then they want to tell a story about it and they're puffing on it, and you're like, yeah, well, does this guy even, you know, like put a little something in this joint or something, you know?
Yeah.
And that's, you know, some old school like thought, you know, I got 5 on it type shit, you know.
So that song means I got 5 on it. That's what it means.
Yeah, you know, at least, you know, pitch a little something, you know. I put 5 on it, you put 5 on it. Now we got a gram, you know. Now we're smoking, right? So
I never knew that.
Yeah, so
I never knew that. I mean, I listened to that song a million times, but I just like, I don't know what it meant. It just sounded good.
Yeah, it's a cool song, you know. It's a hip hop classic for sure. But yeah, I don't know. There's all sorts of shit, you know. Probably the worst thing is when you're, you know, smoking, you know, as you shouldn't be, but you're smoking in a vehicle and somebody goes to ash the joint and then the joint just goes out the fucking window. That always sucks, especially when it's your last joint.
That happened? Did I do that?
No.
Okay, just checking. I'm like, was that me on a visit? Like, did I lose the joint? Did I ever lose a joint before? I don't know if I lost the joint. No. Hey, Levy. Are you going to partake in this, my friend? I don't see why not.
Oh.
Right here, pal.
On the left.
At least be on camera. Let's get you in on that.
There we go.
How about your girl? Does she want to have?
Always, she may. I don't know.
I just don't, you know, you should get in on here too. You're totally invited. Who am I not to?
But see, this is what I love about cannabis. It just breaks protocol and just, you know, brings people together. You know?
There you go. Who do we have here? Who's this?
That's the Tito Burrito Oliver Sanchez.
Brains behind the operation.
The real brains, huh? Wow, this dog's got wisdom. It reminds me of your turtle.
Yeah.
Remember the energy your turtle
Yeah,
had?
Todd the turtle.
Todd the turtle. Yo, same expression in his eyes.
Yeah.
They were homies.
They were homies for
Oh,
sure.
wow. Yeah, well, I stayed there. I befriended your turtle.
Yeah.
I remember I called you a couple times. I'm like, yo, this turtle, it knows. I'm talking to this turtle. The turtle would like move, he'd pull his head out of his shell, and then he would look right at me. I'm like, can you hear me? And he'd do something else. I'm like, you understand? I'm like, this guy understands. Remember when I called you guys? This turtle knows things.
Right? Yeah. No, it's for real. Animals are amazing, you know, just like plants. Just like the cannabis plants. People don't realize how alive they really are. You go play music for them, you come back in the morning and all the plants will be leaned towards the music, you know. They don't like certain people. They're very interactive. And I think a lot of people forget that, you know, and I think things like the psilocybin and the LSD and stuff can sometimes draw us into that and remind us of what the plants and the nature has to offer. You know what I mean?
Did you want to introduce her, girl? I mean, by all means, this is your lovely woman. Traveler, been to Italy a couple times.
I
I appreciate you coming on, saying hello. These are an amazing couple. They've had me out to their home on Vancouver Island numerous times, and through thick and thin, they've always been there. They've changed plans for me multiple times, and we've had dinner. And one time we went to eat. Remember, I went to 2 Italian restaurants. Did I go to 2? What happened that time? You guys went to the Italian restaurant.
Which one?
Yeah, well, the thing is there's some great restaurants in Victoria, but 2 of our favorites happen to be Italian, and some are tough to get into or whatever. So the weekend you were there, of course, we took you to two Italian restaurants.
We went to 2 Italian restaurants.
And then, of course, they had to, you know, there's a certain degree of good food that has to be served when it's an Italian chef that you're.
I'm just like, let me have this here. And but what was great was the atmosphere. The food tasted good, and they were very kind. You know, so no matter where I go, I thought the LK. Did you want some more? You're pretty good. This is pretty strong. I can pass this
We've
over
got
this
some
way.
other. Did you get it? We've got some
Didn't it go that
other
way?
Italian restaurants.
You see, you can fuck up the pass off. I just did it. Here, look at that. You see it? I was like, here. Who gets this? We're talking about Italian food. Tomorrow, I'm cooking for you guys.
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say. We're so grateful.
They gave me a gig. Like, not only did they come on the podcast, they gave me a gig for tomorrow. A cabin in Bragg Creek. I've been.
What a tough gig for us, eh?
8 people? Oh my God. It's going to be an honor, man. Like the menu's going to be super dope. So I assume that there's certain meats they don't want to eat. I can't see them eating like salami and capicola and mortadella. So I go, how about a charcuterie board that has olives and imported cheeses and all sorts of like, you know, figs and berries and different types of dip. You know, no bread to fill you up though, but just like food that's like almost paleo, you know? It's just really nice to keep your palate fresh and your stomach like, you know, not filled, prepared for the next course. Because the next course, what I got for you guys, I have bruschetta, but I call it the trichetta. And this trichetta is going to be roasted mushrooms, cremini with garlic sauce and white wine. The other one I'm making for you guys is I sauteed this shrimp with cherry tomatoes, olive oil, and garlic. I roast that on there with some fresh cheese, Romano usually. And the last one that I'm doing for you guys is a traditional bruschetta, because in case somebody's like, I just want the original, bang. So you get a little bit of everything. Third one, your favorite, LaBelle caprese salad. Boom, it's got its own fireworks. These is just the pipes here in this building. Right. We contend with this sound. No one normally notices.
To fall through the fucking ceiling. Like, I was like, Jesus.
Yeah, these guys, he's like, we've been trapped. It's like, imagine you had to like do jujitsu on the mats right now. Like you actually had to wrestle and fight somebody. Because you do jujitsu. Because we're here in Alavanca, which is my, nice to come on here. Thank you so much. Yo, that was dope. So you're training jiu-jitsu. In fact, you're in the best shape I've seen you. You look good.
Yeah, it is probably the best shape I've been in. Yeah, definitely.
You don't age. Like, how old are you?
35.
It's okay to ask a guy how old he is. You're like, how dare he ask me?
No. 35, and yeah, you know, like the body. If there's one thing we have to do in life is we have to keep moving. We have to keep learning new things, and the body. the less we use it, the more comfortable it gets with not being used, right? And this ties into our structure and our fascia and just our
Fascia.
yeah, the bone density and everything that we have, right? So you got to keep the body moving.
You got to keep the fascia moving.
You got to keep the fascia
Because
moving.
the fascia is your Spider-Man suit.
You know,
it's
you
what
got to
beneath
keep
your skin.
the bones bearing weight. You know, so jiu-jitsu has been an amazing find for me. When I was young and in my lifestyle, I was often in fights. I never liked fighting, but for the most part, I was a big protector of like my friends, right? So I was like, oh, we'd get into little, schoolyard fights or whatever the case is. And I always said, I'd really love to learn what the fuck I'm doing. You know what I mean? And it takes time because we go through life, we get into journeys. But I got to this place where I was really getting into downhill mountain biking.
Nice, I remember.
And I had the crotch rocket and everything like that. And I found this place that I've never been to before, in a sense that my mind would just get going so fast. There were so many things to think about that I loved it. And oddly enough, when my dog passed away, I gave up my bike. I was just riding it, and I was like, wow, you know what? Like, that dog depended on me, and I depended on that dog. There's other people out there that depend on me in their life. I think this bike might be a selfish decision, because anything can happen. And I trust myself, but I don't always trust other people on the road, especially.
Do you feel that driving has become more impaired, not from cannabis, but do you feel that the impairment comes from the distraction of technology, cell phones? Like right now, people, today I made an observation in Calgary. I was driving through Bankview and other parts of downtown, 10th, 9th, 8th, Upper and Lower Mount Royal. I was down in, what's the area called behind Analog again? The Beltline? Beltline.
Yeah.
I was down in the Beltline. Every single person, everybody. This is all I see. This is all I see every single day. This is all I see. That's great. That's my son and I. But it's all I see. People are distracted. They're not looking up. They're walking into restaurants with their heads down. They're eating with their phones in front of their faces. I was guilty of this for a certain time when I realized, man, this is the worst way to live. I've tried so hard to disconnect from technology, from social media, but I feel compelled to be responsible to finish off this path, this journey I'm on. You understand? Whether I become a comedian or I become an interviewer or become a chef or I become some guy pumping gas in Thunder Bay. That's where I'm from. And when I grew up as a kid, my biggest realization is all I wanted to do was pump gas at Beaver Gas Bar on Frederica. And I thought that was the greatest job in life because that guy could smoke while pumping gas in overalls with no shirt on in the middle of winter with a tube while Ozzy Osbourne was fucking playing in the background. It was the greatest experience of my fucking life. And I know that the 80s shaped who I am today, and I feel the 80s is essential to come back right now with that mentality of being big, of expressing yourself and not suppressing yourself with what's happening with the masks, what's happening with these regulations and shutdown. I think people need to be themselves more now than ever, as authentic as you can. Bear yourself, be vulnerable. This man has taken me on journeys mentally not many could. I'm a wild man, but this guy I've called so many times. Jay's always been there when I call to try to get entrepreneurship, mentorship. And it's difficult, man, trying to make money gig to gig, buck to buck. When you got a 14-year-old, it's not easy. But my son now makes money. My son's got a job. He works here at this gym. He wiped these mats and set up this table and chairs for us so we can have this podcast. Pardon me, I let it go out. And it makes me emotional because here we are. We came up in the game, bro.
100%.
We came up in this game together. We've seen the rise of Calgary. We've seen the fall of Calgary. This city's, the way they think and operate, the businesses move. Look at companies like Una, for example. I've never seen a company so efficient in keeping people inside a place that small consistently with the same menu day after day. They've expanded. These people are a powerhouse. Analog, just powerhouses here in Calgary. I believe that Calgary is like a Silicon Valley in my perspective. I feel we are a benchmark, a potential social experiment to see what brands can work here because we are as trendy as we are as redneck as we are, right? We have people that are very fucking right-wing, we have people that are very left-wing, but there seems to be an ordinance between the two that seems to be able to create a link, a bond. So we both understand each other. And here in Alberta, I find that we don't argue too much about it, right? Jason Kenney went up there, did his thing, rolled things back. That was pretty fucking dope. I think that's great. He's the only leader right now in a province that's backing up, and then people are calling him out on it. He's like, but it's what you guys asked for, so I did it. Now he's facing controversy. You know, it's difficult to think about freedom, because that's what we do. We live a free life. And those who are watching, I know you live a free life. And right now, I think we're in the fight of our lives. And I think that you and I have been through many battles since 2005, my friend. And I sit here with you, your presence and your energy, like all conversation aside, I think there needs to be a spiritual awakening and a moment where two people can just look at each other and say, man, I'm proud of you. I'm fucking super proud of you.
And I'm proud of you as well, man.
Thanks, man.
100%.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a journey.
It's a journey, bro.
And we gotta love the journey, you know, and that's what life's about. You know, well, to answer your question, you know, is it technology or cannabis that's distracted driving? I call it a stacking method. You know, the more things you're doing, the more likeliness something's gonna happen.
Oh,
you know what I mean? So it's like
yeah, it's true.
It all happens, but as you're saying, you know, with the rise of technology and like everything that's going on, it's good to recognize familiar faces. It's good to recognize people from the past, right? And it's also good to embrace the change of what's happening, right? Something that's always stuck with me is that, you know, it's not the fastest that wins. It's not always the strongest, but it's the ones that survive are the most agile. They're the ones that can change, and you know, and that's what, you know, people like ourselves have always had to do, right? We've always had to change in the moment. In our brains, you know, doing the 9 to 5 and the regular hustle. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It just, to us, it just doesn't work. Right?
So hard.
So
Levy's the same way, man. This guy works fucking 12-hour days, 7 days a week. He's his own boss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's a young man as well. And the two of you guys are near in age, and it's just like incredible to see how self-sufficient you are, the life you've created for yourselves. And I feel like people are losing that ambition to create this life for themselves. They're more willing to take a life that's handed to them. And we never had that opportunity. My journey's a little longer, like 45 years old. But I feel like maybe I'm just meant to be this old vet, the guy that wears all the war wounds of the partying of the past, or the poor decisions that we make, because we all make really shitty fucking decisions. Man, I've made quite a few, especially with women, let's be honest. I put myself into so many situations, dating the wrong people, and getting hurt and fucking manipulated over and over and over. And then you regroup and you try again, and you go into another relationship, and you fucking just bam, boom, boom, holy crap, it's so much emotion, and there's so much passion, and people have lost that ability to channel that passion into consistent love. Why are we arguing? Why are we fighting? Why cannot we just love? Why are we making small talk? You do this, I'll do this, man. We're gonna just live and love life and be human to each other.
Yeah.
And I feel you two really established that. And I look to that and think, I haven't seen that too much in my life. How do you find love and maintain it as long as you two have? Let's be honest, it's a great relationship. It looks incredible.
Oh, it's probably exactly that, you know, forever changing. It's work, you know, it's consistent effort, you know. There's all the, you know, the fairy tale shit that's out there, but at the end of the day, it comes down to just like honest effort. You know, you got to be willing to put in the time. You got to be willing to take the time to understand. And that's a hard thing to do, you know. A lot of people have expectations. And expectations, in my experience, I find is what kills relationships. You know, whether it be a romantic relationship or a relationship with friends. The problem with expectations is that they're very rarely actually communicated. So, you know, an example is, you know, you're coming home and you're getting upset because dinner's not ready for you. But is that a conversation that you've had and that you've expressed, right?
This is common?
You know, that scenario is a common, I don't know. The
Creating
scenario
expectations,
of
like,
expectations, yeah, I think humans do that,
So
right?
we set ourselves up for failure.
With expectations, I believe you can, you know, for sure.
Would you say that's a weak point in entrepreneurship, like having that emotion?
Yeah, you know, what's always kept me flush in business is never promising what I can't give and always giving a little more than I promised. you know? So I think that's always kind of kept me flush. You know, if I can't do it, I can't do it. If I can do it, I'm gonna do it 110%.
But you have.
You know what I mean? So that's the same thing for any relationship and you know, a romantic relationship you have. It's a lot of communication, and it's a lot of leaving the ego out of it, which is very, very hard thing to do, because you know, the ego is always hungry. So it's hard, you know. Is it easy, and is it, you know, picture perfect every day? Hell no. You know, but does it get stronger over time, and you put more time in, and you get to know this person even deeper and on a more even spiritual level, some can say, right? That's huge.
What about love? What about love? Just the feeling of love. I love you. You know, the curtsy methods of how we demonstrate our love language to each other. What would you say in a relationship as consistent as yours? How long have you guys been together?
8.5 years.
That's
8
a long
years.
time.
Yeah.
And see, 8.5 years, you know, that's where you're at the point where it's like, do you still say, I love you every day, and I miss you, and I can't wait to see you? Are those feelings the same? How can we, like, change if we don't know how to be in a relationship? Are we meant to be compatible? Are we meant to be individuals? I always ask myself that. But the good relationships I have had with women that have worked, you know, my mom and a really kind woman in my life, you know, they've been incredible people, strong, Libras, in fact.
I'm a Libra too.
You're a Libra?
Yeah.
What does that mean as a Libra? What's love in Libra? How about that one? What's love and what's a Libra?
I think the internet would tell you balance, you know, but I don't know what it is. I think it's different for everyone, you know. I think love is different for everyone. You know, I think you ask somebody what is love, you get a different answer from everyone.
It's a song.
Right? Yeah, it's
a good song.
You know.
What is love? Remember that movie?
And it's true. Night at the Roxbury, right? And it's very true, right? Because, you know, like what is it really? You know, to some it's a feeling, to some it's a word, to some, you know, it might be a situation. You know, to some it's food. Right?
They love food.
I love this.
I love food.
It always trips me out, right? Because I'm like, well, like, what have you done for that food? Like, you know, like, how often do you communicate? Like, you know, like, it's just, you're just here to eat the shit, you know? So
no pressure for tomorrow.
It's one of
my
those.
food has to be able to speak 4 languages.
It's one of those
Jay,
things,
before
right?
you eat me, you have to meet my criteria.
I think what I'm trying to say is that we use it so easily these days. You know, we're throwing it out. I love that car. Oh, I love that girl.
It's a loose word.
It's a very loose word, you know. So I think everybody kind of looks at it different, and at the end of the day, I think it's, you know, what it means to you, whether it's, you know, like a system in which you have in place, or a checklist, or, you know, I just hope that it comes from the heart, and that it resonates from the heart, and that you can feel that. You know, you're never going to be one with somebody. You're never going to be just one entity. You're two people that are deciding to spend your most valuable asset, which is time, together. And so that's huge.
Time is the most that's the most like incredible asset we have. It's the most.
Yeah. You know, and that's
irreplaceable. Once time is gone, it's gone.
It's gone. You know, you can't get that back. So
So arguing, fighting, fuming, passive aggressive nature, self-worth, denial, egocentric behaviors. I feel the biggest virus on this planet is right here.
Yeah,
right here is the virus. And my personal opinion is this is the virus, and the only way to beat it is doing that. Does that mean turning this off? So be it. I would rather people turn this off and turn to a loved one and shoot the shit and make love and live life, as opposed to sitting there looking at a screen. And if you are gonna look at a screen, then you should watch this show, For Whom LaBelle Tolls, where my man Jay Anthony has come from like grassroots, northeast, northwest Calgary as a DJ, a man that had to work his way up, and it wasn't easy. Believe me, you've seen movies, it's not easy. And he's in a position where he's living a fucking incredible life. It's humble, it's empowering, and there's a philanthropy aspect to what you do. You always give back. You brought every homie up with you to this point. People don't do that anymore.
No, it's
people abandon their people, man.
It's rare, you know. I'm one for the people, you know. I'd argue though, you know, like,
Oh, a position.
is this the virus? You know, because when I look at it, like nothing truly has meaning until we choose to give it one, right? And you know, is this what's in control, or are we not in control of ourselves? Is it our discipline is at an all-time low, or is it this technology is that good, right? Because as far as I'm concerned, this right here is the most sophisticated technology that walks this earth.
This.
No, this.
This.
Body, right? So
Better be listening. Don't be scrolling through.
So
we
what-
premiere
so what is this?
Thursdays, 8 p.m. I have to promote. You're a DJ. Pom, pom, pom. DJ Ramadan. You know what I mean? They do that.
So
they
that-
do that. You gotta plate your work.
that pink kush was
You
great.
like that? It's good. I'm out of my fucking mind right now.
Oh, yeah.
But in a good way. I was tense. You see, I have a disease called diverticulitis. Google it. You don't want it. It's from poor eating. I've been afflicted by this for the past few years. Constantly gives me, it fucks me up. No matter how healthy I eat or how much I train, I'm always unwell.
Sure.
It sucks. I live in pain. My son lives in pain. The two of us, for some reason, have this shared pain. We're always sore. But instead of laying down and giving up, my mother, I always envision her. Every time I'm about to give up, I could see her with the wooden spoon. You know? I could see the look in her eye. And I think of like, I grew up watching Rocky. I grew up watching the first Rocky to the last Rocky. You know, these movies were so inspirational and real. And then I look at today's movies like Marvel, and these people aren't allowed to genuinely express themselves. It's just jokes.
Yeah.
The most dramatic moments would build ID and persona and who you are, your integrity, your moral compass. Like, you're inspired by art. Man, movies used to be art. Nowadays, it's just censored, and they can't be barbaric. Like, you know, for Marvel, for example, like, you know, it was so PG. And every time there was a dramatic scene, somebody would make a one-liner and kind of like ruin the moment for those that are actually taking it serious. Like Game of Thrones, no fucking around, right? Yellowstone, no fucking around. These shows are fucking great. I don't know if you watch them, but they're fucking fantastic.
Watched some of them, but I don't have cable. I haven't had cable for like, you know, 8 or 9 years, 10 years probably.
So no TV.
The odd time.
Odd time.
We were at somebody's house with cable last night, and we took advantage of that. You know, commercials are actually kind of funny.
Commercials
you don't
are-
got to watch them every fucking day.
You know, LK and I shoot. You've seen our commercials. LK
Yeah.
Visuals and I, we script and shoot commercials, and man, it's our.
We've done a commercial.
Yo, we did Topleaf.
Yeah,
Yo, we
Topleaf.
should run one of those. Yo, that was an epic. That was a good throwback.
That was a good.
We had one. We had a couple good ones, man. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
That was fun. We did the celebrate the. We could re-release that. That 420 one. That was a really
Well,
nice video.
I don't think legally now we can be re-releasing shit, but
But what if someone made it as a tribute?
as maybe there's a way to work around.
Man,
I'll never
make a
say
song
never,
called Topleaf,
but
man.
for-
Like, fuck.
Somebody might do it.
Why
one
don't
day.
you do it? Would you go to that level? Would you use what you created to create more, or are you good where you're at?
No, 100%. Like, you know,
I have to ask this question.
We always think that when we get to somewhere in life, that is, oh, like I made it, I did it. And once you get there, you realize, oh, fuck, like, the truest thing is life is a journey, not a destination. There's no destination, right? We think we're gonna get to this level, and we think we're gonna go, oh, like that's all I need. And then it's just like, oh, it's just more, you know? You're gonna always need more, and you're gonna always kind of want more.
How about give more?
You know, if you're coming from the heart space, you're gonna give more.
Feels good to give, don't it?
It feels great.
I
to
love
give.
helping people. I have very little, but fuck, do I love to help people.
Yeah.
If it's my favorite, God bless. I don't know what's going on with me lately. I've been saying God bless to everybody. God bless. God bless.
Yeah.
It's just the reaction to people when you say God bless and you put a little, heart into it. People, oh, thank you. You know what I mean? Pardon me. I tend to be extraordinarily polite, and I'm polite because I enjoy being friendly. Because at the same time, I'm an animal. Do you know what I mean? So it's best to be the friendliest person you can be and kind and mean it, because it keeps me calm, makes me happy. You know, when people are masked and they're scared and their heads are down, they're in technology, it's a dark time for a guy like me.
Be the change you want to see in the world.
That's what I did, man. I never stopped. As devastating as the shutdown was, I was able to work on my jiu-jitsu and get a lot better at it, rolling with Professor Tim Blanchard. And I'm telling you, I didn't know what I was doing. I really did. And I would kind of throw myself at him and grab him and wait to see what he'd do to me. But when I waited to let him do what he wanted to do, I'd get fucking tossed or I'd get thrown down. And it was a part of this. It wasn't rough. It wasn't to harm me, but like, well, bam, like that's how quick shit goes. And all of a sudden I'm like this and his weight is on me. So when you see in jiu-jitsu guys laying like this and it looks like they're laying on each other, that guy is smothering the guy on the bottom. And it sucks. It's hard to breathe. It's heavy. You can't move your body. It's an immobilizing position. Tim is great at that. And then I've learned how to hip escape and move through that and pass guard and learn how to do a Kimura. And I mean, people thought I always did this stuff, but I didn't know what I was doing. I just wanted to be a part of the action. And now learning, as you said, as you were younger, that you got into confrontations. And then eventually you said, I need to learn what the fuck I'm doing. Doesn't it feel good to know a little now?
And let's finish that. Anyway, dog dying, getting rid of my bike, all that stuff. And it was interesting to me because then I really shifted my focus to downhill riding and downhill mountain biking, and that got the brain really going, right? Because everything is so close. And then, you know, the people around you that are also doing it are like getting like picked off like flies, you know, wiping out here, you know, cracking ribs and breaking hips and all sorts of shit that's going on up those mountains, right? And then I found jiu-jitsu. You know, I said, you know what, I want to do this with my time. I have the time to do it. I want to commit to this. I've always wanted to do a martial art. And I went and did jiu-jitsu. And it was the first thing I found that got my mind moving like that. You know, like a game of kind of like human chess in a sense, where you can almost close your eyes and, oh, this guy's toe is touching my calf. You know, I got 3 options, you know? And his weight just shifted and, you know, he kind of went up high and you can feel the momentum shift. Now you know you can sweep, you know, these things that you can do where you're just going against another person that's literally trying to do the same thing to you, right? And you're trying to train to the point these things become reactions and not thoughts. And that to me was really, really special of the sport of jiu-jitsu for sure.
So it's a total human game of chess.
It is. That's what I feel like for sure.
So those that are new and they're herky-jerky and move around, and myself, you know what I mean? I didn't know. I didn't realize that the moment you beautifully describe the what you observe and how you express yourself about jiu-jitsu, like that moment of escape where like the weight shifts and he went up and there's your move to transition out. And instead of like just using torque and raw power and just muscling your way through, it's literally a game. And when you move, they move until somebody makes a mistake. It's like snakes and ladders, man. You got one and then bam, you're right back down. My
first or second week training, I pulled my oblique muscle. It was very painful, but it taught me a very valuable lesson because exactly that, I had somebody on top of me, and when you're in kind of survival mode, you go back to what you think you know, right? So my mind went back to high school, like I am this agile child, and I just tried to just twist my whole body and just pick this guy and just toss him. I made it about a quarter way there, and my body was like, "Dude, you don't do this move. Like, this is not something we've done. Like, you know, this is not something we've rehearsed." Exactly, right? And at the time, I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, you know, kind of kept going, and then as I was driving home, it was just, you know, every movement. I'm like, "Oh my god!" But again, there was a lesson to be learned. You know, I've had a few, you know, little minor like injuries. And they're all just like kind of lessons. Well, my foot shouldn't have been there. You know, like just these little things. But I love about it that combined with kind of the exercise and going to the gym is as you're in the gym and you're getting stronger, you actually have a place to really feel that strength and play with that strength. And what I like about it is that when you go to jiu-jitsu, or at least, you know, a good jiu-jitsu practice, there's nobody there that's trying to...
We got a great place here.
I've heard nothing but good things.
Why don't, you know what'd be great? Excuse me, this should not be on there. You know what'd be great? Is if you have time this trip or your next trip, you should come and hang out, meet Professor Tim, roll with the class. These guys are phenomenal. This is the kindest and yet most terrifying school I've ever been to. Like, everyone here is so kind and understanding, and they want you to see.
That's what I was gonna say.
Like,
like
you go
you're
on the
showing
mat?
up to a place where people like, you know, like they're putting in their effort, but they're not here to hurt you. They want you to go home at the end of the day, but they want to challenge you while you're here. And that I thought was really cool, you know, and everybody's like, hey, like you're kind of stuck right here. And they're like, try this. And I was like, whoa, this guy just helped me? Like, that's crazy. So that community feeling, that
instead of
team
tapping you out,
aspect,
like, hey, I could tap you here, but listen, you got to bring your knee up,
exactly,
push your
right?
hip
Everybody's
up,
kind of teaching everybody, and I thought that was really cool. And everybody's pushing, right? Because they're here to learn and they're here to kind of push their limits. But the end goal here is to learn, right? Or at least my understanding of it so far, right? But it's been a game changer. Yeah,
you're right. Now that you said it, I've been off the mats. I've been a little injured. And I still train though, the gym.
Yeah.
But since I stopped rolling, I've noticed those muscles, those ropes I was developing, this thickness, like this, my neck. Yeah. And I'm like, whoa, I'm losing it. So now I'm like, you're right. I just, once again, through you, realized that I need to be here to have that build I was gaining. Yeah. And it was the best I ever felt. I was lucky. I was never injured. I found it to be like hot yoga. Where I'm getting stretched and flexed, but it's somebody just as strong or stronger than I am that's pushing through. So now as I'm rolling and twisting, I'm a child again. It's movement. It's the greatest movement you can do. And providing your training partner is fair and kind, like you won't get injured. So you would say that jiu-jitsu changed your life? Oh, for sure. You know, you get into these things, and I'm a person that like I often stick with the things I dive into. And I tend to really like, you know, just go for it. And it's been great. Like I said, you know, that just health aspect is huge, right? That conditioning aspect is huge. How's your reflexes? Probably better than they were before. Wrist control, like when they go in your wrist and you're like, you pull your, like, you know what I mean? Oh, all that. Like when it's all close, you're like pulling and moving and like you're trying to trap them, like get your wrist. Wrist control, my favorite. I don't know what it is. I just like grabbing that wrist and being like, oh, that's cool. Oh, it's when you start shrimping to get out of bed. Yeah. Like it's wild, you're moving. Like, okay, it's not just me then. So you, because we're both relatively new to it, right? Yeah. Like, would we not be? Yeah. But now you're saying things that I relate to, like they're shrimping out of bed. Like when I get up, I'm like using different body parts to get up. Yeah. Or when I stand up, I do a squat up. I don't just stand up. You're and it's changed the way I work out. It's changed. Instead of, you know, trying to put on, you know, size, it's like I tend to now try to focus on strength and like usable strength, right? And I really dove into it. I went and did my like personal training and all that to understand it more, right? Just from like, what am I actually doing here? And change the way I work out, right? So we should have, not to interrupt, I just had a vision, you know how I get. You said that you're as good as your 5. Why don't you explain what that means? Like, there's people that get it. You're only as good as your top 5. And when my top 5 kind of starts to change and different faces come in, and like I know when I'm dialed in. You know the expression dialed in? Like, do. These 5 are great. And then you sometimes have to take new 5s on because you see the potential in them and you're the 5 that they want to align with. So you have to remove that ego to be in that position where you can groom those around you and they groom you in how they see you. And that's where infinite intelligence comes to reality, because we grow from each other. Those speeches that you gave me on my dinners, like those were quintessential to the success of the dinners. Like you put me in a mindset where I'm like, I need to succeed. Tomorrow I cook for you. And you've described to me that you want to get in touch with your food. You want to know what you're eating. So now I'm like, I have to be mindful. So I have to make sure I'm doing my best not to be the tastiest or the most technical, but I want to make sure that there's heart in the food. Yeah. That's my goal. That's what I plan is. That's what I'm going to do. I hope that was in the microphone. I was just sitting like this. I don't know where I went. I went to a rabbit hole. I went to another place. I just totally went, soup. You went to the West Coast. I went to the West Coast. Real quick. So with that said, you need to come back on the show. Because we didn't touch anything yet. Like, you're in the psilocybin industry, or you're going to get into that. Everybody that did well in cannabis, they're moving on to that. I feel that with your branding and expertise in building a brand through good advertising, marketing, the color schemes that you used, the titles you gave your products, it was brilliant. And I think whatever you do next will have that same energy. Thank you. Yeah, and you know, none of it would be possible without the team and the people that, you know, like really made it happen. You know, I can't take all the credit for everything, but it's definitely been a journey, and you can't do it without a team, right? So when you're picking that top 5, you got to be sure, you know. And back to that feeling of the heart, you know, you got
gotta feel that these are good people, you know, not just know it. And that's just the world we live in today. And I think, you know, when you take the time to do that, we can avoid a lot of the inconsistencies that life can throw at us, you know. So I appreciate it, you know. I really appreciate the time and coming on. And you're right, you know, like I know me and you can talk for hours and hours and get into all sorts of different shit. And that's what we'll look at doing for the future. Yeah.
My man.
Always.
Good to see you, bro.
Always. Proud of you.
Thank you, man.
100%, man.
Well, as you can see, real men can show emotion and be vulnerable. It's really easy to do. Make sure you guys try it sometime, you know, change your life. With that, thank you for joining us on this episode. Jay Anthony, co-founder of Topleaf Cannabis, here today, gone tomorrow, out to the woods, where I cook these guys a beautiful 5-course dinner.
100%.
Thanks, man.
Always.